Good morning, Arizona, and good afternoon, Missouri. Today we have a special lunch and learn on W-2s and taxes. And Mary Carter, our special guest out in Missouri, is going to tell us everything we need to know about that topic. She's in the Human Resources Department, and she is the Director of Payroll. Also joining me out in Missouri is Joe Vincent, my fierce co-host.
Indeed. Fierce indeed. Do you like my hair, by the way? I have to tell you, I've been struggling with a little bit of jealousy because I feel like, and Kit and I have discussed this, everything we do, you do better. And so this is just the first step of my self-improvement plan to help. It's like be more like Kirsty. I feel like anything we can do to do it more like Kirsty does it is a good thing. So I'm really looking for feedback on this today because it's the first day I've been brave enough to wear it out in public. But I assume it looks fantastic.
It's gorgeous.
You haven't said otherwise.
Of course.
So.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Happy to be here, Kirsty. Okay, so what? Was that an official kick to me? Like I should say something about today's Lunch and Learn. So let's say a few things. First of all, the Lunch and Learn is brought to you by a collaboration between many support service departments at ATSU, including but not always limited to information technology services, human resources, communications and marketing, the ATSU library, and other resources as we bring in to help us out. It's funny because I was just reminiscing as we were sitting here. It used to be folding tables, and we sat really close to the floor in like folding chairs, and it was me and Brian, and Brian always wears the big headsets, so it just felt more like not production quality, right? Like we were in somebody's basement recording a podcast or some bootleg radio channel. So we've come a long way, and we've got several seasons now under our belt of, I don't know how you do this, honestly, with the hair. Several seasons of fantastic content where we've sort of tried to open up a lot of the closed doors, behind the scenes stuff where we get to see people doing valuable things contributing to the functioning of the university. And so the Lunch and Learn has just been a fantastic endeavor, and we're glad to be able to continue doing this and add on more and more talented co-hosts and partnerships as we move along. And I'm going to be there with you soon. Pretty soon they won't even be able to tell us apart is my goal.
I know, we're like twins.
Pretty much twins. I'm going to work on the accent, and then we'll be there. All the way there. You can come one day, I can come the next day. They won't even really know that we're gone, right?
Yeah,
right.
Pretty much. I mean,
right.
We're matching today.
I appreciate the constant agreement. Okay, so before we start today, it's a timely topic regarding W-2s, as Kirsty said, and some associated employment tax type things that you have to deal with, and we're so thankful that you do. Thank you for that. But we wanted to let you know that during today's episode, you can watch us live in two places. One is at live.atsu.edu. That's our live stream page where this whole video will be streaming the whole time. And if you have a live stream account, you can post questions there. We love to be able to answer questions during the live session. The easier way for most people to do it is on Facebook, where we also have a live stream going there it is, its.atsu.edu/FB. And there again, if you have a Facebook account, you can jump on there and watch us live, post questions as they come up to you, because it's almost certain that we're going to say something today that doesn't make a lot of sense, especially in payroll, right? There are words that you say that I have to make you back up and explain. Finally, once this is all done and Corey has edited out all of the segments where I am talking in a blonde wig, and everything it looks like total production quality, we're going to post that up on YouTube, and you'll be able to refer back to this episode anytime you want to, or any other episode that we've ever filmed on our YouTube page. So with that, Kirsty, I know you've got the original kind of opening salvo for us. Let's get into today's topic.
Yeah, definitely. So it's W-2s and taxes. And I think Mary Carter is going to go over sort of the basics, how to even access your paychecks and things like that, so that once it's time for you to get your W-2s, you can actually see what you're trying to be turning in and sort of make sure that everything's in line.
Yes, today at the end of the year, we start getting a lot of questions in payroll. People are wanting to know, when am I going to get my W-2? It starts early December. They call every week, and everybody wants to get them as soon as they can, but they also want them right.
Of course.
We have people mistakenly that will call and say, but my tax appointment is very early. Can you just make mine? That's not how it works. We have to balance the whole year with everybody's information. And we have over 2,000 employees, and we're in over 42 states. So there's a lot of different laws we deal with for the taxes, for the information that actually makes the W-2.
I see. So this is kind of, just backing up a half step, this is the season where you start preparing all of the end of the year tax documents.
Right.
And I think everybody's aware, or I assume they are, that you produce everybody's W-2 statement, basically, for what they were paid and what they paid out and all of that stuff. You're doing that right now in the
That's
payroll
right.
department. And that change, look at that, I still have blonde hair coming off of my head everywhere. And so it's individualized, so everybody's is different.
Yes.
And depending on what state they're in, maybe sometimes even what city they're in,
That's correct.
it makes a lot of difference in how that W-2 cranks out. And so you're saying that there's a timeline for when those are going to be produced and available, and is it the same for everybody?
Yes, it is. It is.
Okay. So when are they going to be available? How do we get them?
You'll get them when you get an email that
From
says
you?
they're ready.
Okay.
And they'll be on the Green Employee website. This is the same website where you get your W-2s.
Okay, I know the Green Employee website.
You get your pay stubs there. We can actually even go in and change your addresses there now. And at this time of the year, it's very important that we have the correct address, the correct phone, all the correct information. Dependents, if you've gotten married, gotten divorced, had a child, have a child that's aged out to where you can't claim them anymore, you need to think
sure.
about those and think about your W-4 and your state forms, because those might need changed or tweaked a little. So this is the time that we need that information, and we need all changes of addresses by December 15th, no later.
Oh, really?
Because we'll be working on W-2s during winter break. There's really nobody here to call during that time,
Right.
which we're glad.
I'm not going to be here.
And we try not to be here the entire time, but it is the time when there's downtime for us to prepare those tax documents.
Okay.
Now, how do we get that changed information to you? I imagine that there's a bunch of people right now who did change addresses or have a new dependent, and they're a little bit worried about making that December 15th deadline.
That's right. It can be an email to HR, or again, on the Green Employee website, there's a place where you can go in and change your address. So if you're familiar with that, to go get your pay stubs, you can get in there and change your address there. But the easiest, way is to contact somebody in HR. And, if you need some help, they'll be glad to walk you through that. If you need to change dependents, be sure and include Trina, because she's our benefits coordinator,
Right.
and she may need to know that information also for insurance purposes.
Okay, so I have always wanted to meet, the Green Employee website always sticks out in my mind because I've always wanted to meet the Green employees. I feel like that would be fascinating.
Yes.
But are you able to show us where it is?
I am.
And I'm sorry, I was still in hair and makeup from the post blonde wig thing. But I think I heard you say, is it possible to post most of those changes through the Green Employee website?
Right, but I can't get all the way in there.
Because we don't want to see someone's personal information.
That's correct.
So how far can you get us? At least show us where the
Okay.
website is.
If you go into the portal and you go into departments and you go into the HR home, you're going to get payroll information, and you are going to get right here, it says Green Employee Website Instructions, so you can look at the instructions if you need to, and right under it is the web address. And when you click on that web address, it's going to take you right to it. Now, if you've never been in there, because we still have several employees that haven't, you would say create an account, which is to the right. If you've already been in here, you're ready to go ahead and log in with your email address and your password.
Okay, right.
We don't put this up on the screen any further than this because the first time you log in, you're going to see pay information. But we'll be glad to walk you through it. You can call either Sarah Jones, Sarah Heimer, or myself.
Okay.
And we'll be glad to walk anybody through whatever they need.
So a really cool function on the portal, in fact, I think it's one that Brian Krusniak showed me, is if you're on the main page, the first portal page that comes up, you can actually just start typing anything, and it automatically launches a search for that thing. So I started typing green, and I got the direct link to the green employee site right there off of the main page, just in case some of those instructions, because we have so many documents and forms and things that sometimes it gets buried, but you can get to it right from the main page without having to search for anything if you want to. That's my only productive addition contribution to today's discussion. Okay, so we know how to get there. Once we get in there, we're probably going to forget our password. I feel like I have forgotten my password every time I try to go into that.
And there's a quick link that says reset my password. If you have trouble, again, call one of us in payroll and we'll help you through it.
What's the extension over there?
The extension for Sarah Jones is 2289.
Okay.
For Sarah Heimer, 2695. And for myself, 2791.
Okay, very good.
And any of us will be glad to help.
All right. So there's other cool stuff on Green Employee too, like pay stubs, right?
Yeah, right.
I've noticed that because if you have to go take out a loan, buy a house, buy a car, so on, like it's cool to have the pay stubs right there.
That's
they
correct.
Ask for them.
And you have 2 years of pay stubs. So we don't just have the current one on there. You can actually go back and get up to 2 years of pay stubs. So if you're looking for your last one from 2015, you can go in there and find it. You can also find the 2 years of W-2s prior. There's a drop-down box under pay history that says pay stubs, tax forms, and it will even have your insurance form, that 1095-C that's put out at the end of the year by Trina, and it'll even be on there.
That's the one that shows you had health insurance.
That's correct.
Right? Okay. Cool.
Now, do you recommend that we download them because you only keep 2 years worth?
I do. You should always have them downloaded or printed and put into a safe file, or both, for easy access. I wouldn't just leave them laying around. But if you have a safety deposit box, it's a good place to put your copies in, because if you have a fire, you have flood damage, there's different things that can happen, and you need to have that information. And so it's just good to keep it in a safe place. But always download it, keep it on a flash drive, keep it in a safe place. That's a good idea.
Okay, so here's a question that has come up. How come the pay stubs don't match the W-2s? Have you ever noticed that?
Yes, and they're not going to.
Well, okay.
Okay, so on the pay stubs, you have your gross. I don't have a pay stub here. Right. We have a W-2. We can share the screen and show the W-2. Okay, your W-2 is going to deal with your federal taxable wages, your state taxable wages, and your FICA taxable wages.
Okay.
Okay, these are all the IRS wants to know is what part they get.
Okay, very good. I assume FICA has something to do with the part that IRS gets?
It does. That's that part we get to pay. And the FICA SS is 6.2% of your wages. And it's on up to this year, up to $127,200. If you make more than that, you get a little bit of a break.
Okay.
But up to that point, there is no break. Everybody pays FICA M, which is the medical or Medicare part, and that's 1.4%. Unless you make over $200,000, and then they take another 0.09%.
Wow.
So the higher earners they're going to pay a little more to try to help the Medicare system out.
Okay.
The pay stub has your gross wages and your net wages. Your gross wages are going to be those wages before we start taking the deductions out and adding the taxable benefits back in. So when you look at your W-2, you're never going to see your gross wages. You're never going to see your take-home pay, which is your net wage. You're only going to see the part that the government or the state can tax you on.
Oh, so the numbers may be completely different.
They are going to be completely different, but it's good to learn the differences, because I send this information also to the Social Security Administration. So when you get to retire, you're going to see a list of your wages that you've been turned in for you. And that's what they're going to base your Social Security check off.
Okay.
So it's good to know how it works, and it's good to know that it's right. On our W-2, when you get it and see it, you're going to see the employee Social Security number, box A, and you're going to have your wages and tips and other compensation in box 1, 3, and 5. They won't always agree either, because what's taxable for federal is sometimes different than what's taxable for your 2 FICA taxes.
Okay.
And over to the right of those, it's going to tell you how much you had withheld out of your checks. So how much your income tax was federal was withheld, and each of your Social Security taxes.
This is incredibly complicated. Kirsty, you surely understand this completely. I just assume that you do, as the superior of the 2 co-hosts of this show.
No, I think it's fabulous. I always need a review. I do my own taxes for my household, but yeah, it's always.
You see, she
I don't
said
think I've ever
review.
actually looked it up.
A refresher is
So she
nice.
does know.
Of course I knew all of this, but it's always good to hear it again. Okay, very good. Hey, I'm getting the axe symbol, and so that means they have heard enough about taxes and the IRS and Joe knowing nothing. And it's time to take a quick break. And Kirsty, I think you have an idea of what's coming up here next, don't you?
I do, and I'm super excited about it. In fact, we have a special segment that Ann Aykroyd out in Arizona, C&M, produced, and she does social media for our campus and, in fact, the university in general. And she interviewed 2 of our employees, Lyle from Communications and Marketing and Ben from IT. So I don't want to spoil it, but this is a really fun get to know ATSU.
Tell us your name, title, and department.
My name is Ben Lewis. My title is The Awesome, and I work in the IT department.
How long have you been with ATSU?
30 days, half September, April, June. 3 years, I think.
How would you describe your job to a child?
I would describe my job to a child by telling them that I fix all the things. All the things.
What would your autobiography be called?
Let's see here. My autobiography would be The Life and Times of Ben Lewis, How to Be Awesome.
What's your favorite kind of cookie?
My favorite kind of cookie is Snickerdoodle, more so because I like saying Snickerdoodle than actually the taste of it. Snickerdoodle.
What song should be playing when you walk into a room?
The song that should be playing when I walk into the room is Elton John's Tiny Dancer. Don't ask why.
If you could go back in time, what advice would you give your teenage self?
If I could go back in time, I would tell myself to never listen to Elton John's Tiny Dancer.
Who would play you in a movie about your life?
If anybody could play me in a movie about my life, it'd be Sir Patrick Stewart, because he's British and awesome.
What superpower would you like to have?
If I could have any superpower, at first I thought it'd be flying, but it's really hot in Arizona and I would probably burn. So I think I would rather teleport, because that way I get to places quickly and I wouldn't have to worry about the weather at all whatsoever.
Welcome to the lightning round. Pepsi or Coke?
Coke.
Texting or talking?
Texting.
Favorite day of the week?
Friday
Fill in the blank. Taylor Swift
is my homegirl.
Would you rather fight a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
They're both scary.
Cake or pie?
Cake.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars. Why are we yelling?
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Okay. Tell us your name, title, and department.
My name is Lyle Luton. I'm a graphic designer in the communications and marketing department in Mesa, Arizona.
How long have you been with ATSU?
Well, I started back last November, so it's been almost a year now.
How would you describe your job to a child?
If I were to describe my job to a child, I guess I would just say it's sort of a mixture of drawing and working with a computer.
What would your autobiography be called?
My autobiography would have to be titled Get Lyled.
What is your favorite kind of cookie?
I'd probably have to say M&M cookie. That's probably my favorite kind of cookie.
What song should be playing when you walk into a room?
Probably Wild Wild West by Will Smith.
Who would play you in a movie about your life?
Well, I would like to think it would be Ashton Kutcher, but it would probably actually be the guy who plays Mr. Bean. Rowan Atkinson, that's his name.
What superpower would you like to have?
If I could have any superpower, it would probably be the ability to fly. Because then I could fly to work and be able to skip all the traffic.
Welcome to the lightning round. Pepsi or Coke?
Coke.
Texting or talking?
Texting.
Favorite day of the week?
Saturday.
Fill in the blank. Taylor Swift is...
Awesome.
Would you rather fight a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
A horse-sized duck.
Cake or pie?
Cake.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Dogs or cats?
Cats.
Oh, and we're back. Did you know that Spark Tank gave out fidget spinners? They are fantastic, I think. And what I'm going to do right now is hypnotize you or me or both so that we find these W2 conversations as fascinating as we should, because Mary took a lot of time to come here today. And this is stuff that we need to know. And so you and I were talking during the break, and there's an important W2 time, like date coming up. There's a step that has to be taken, right? Is that a fair way to say it? It's pretty important.
Well, the W-2s aren't due to employees till January 31st, but we try to have them out. Last year, I believe we had them posted by the 12th of January, and we encourage everybody to go and print them off Green Employee.
So when you say post them, you meant post it on the Green Employee
On the Green
site.
Employee site,
Okay.
which is a third-party secured website.
Okay.
So nobody's going to get into it. It
Right.
has a lot of security features. They've really beefed them up.
Okay.
And as you know, you have to change your password every 6 months
5
now.
minutes. Yes, I do know that. Okay, so printing it, so I go in on Green Employee and I do what?
Well, you can view it and print it at that time.
Uh-huh.
But if your tax appointment isn't till March, you go ahead and view it and go ahead and consent to print. And once you've consented to print your W-2 yourself,
Yeah,
you won't have one sent.
like mailed to you.
That's right.
Okay.
You will have all the time in the world to print it, but it'll also makes a check mark on my list that says I don't have to do anything with yours, you've taken care of it. And once you consent, it's going to be for the next 10 years or 40 years, however long you're going to be here.
Oh, really? It's just
Unless
consent
you
one time.
change.
I see.
But you can consent one time and you don't have to do it every year. And you can do it actually now. You can go in now to your Green Employee website and consent to print your W-2 for this next year. And that way you're done.
So what happens if we consent to print it and then we totally forget to print it? Like actually print it?
If you've already consented, it won't be mailed to you unless you call us and tell us and you change your requirement to get it mailed to you. Because there is a way you can go in and say, hey, I've decided I want you to mail them to me. I'm not going to consent. I'm taking my consent back. And now you have to mail it.
It's like breaking a promise, Kirsty. That's what she's saying.
It is, but it can be done. But if we have to mail it, we're not going to mail it till January 31st.
Right.
This is partially to encourage you to go ahead and do it yourself. You can print it at your printer at work. It has 3 pages. The first page is your informational page, and that's the one we saw a little bit ago. It has all your information on it. Second page is just going to be an instruction page for the boxes that says what's in box 1, what's in box 12, and those. It's just going to give you that information. Third one is a coupon. If you go to, I believe it's H&R Block, there's a 20% coupon on there.
Is that right?
If you don't, if you do your own, like Christy, you said you did, you can just ignore that page. You can just print the first page, and always print it to a PDF, put it on a flash drive, that way you have it. But you can go in, like I said, it'll be there for 2 years.
Okay, that's what I wondered. So if we, let's say, for consent to print, but then forget to print it, it'll still be there on the green employee side every time I go in. So I could print it
You
anytime
can print it
for the
100
next 2
times
years.
if you want to.
Right.
You can print it every day. You can just print it the day of your tax appointment.
Right.
Because you know it's going to be there.
And so, like, typically, I'll tell you what I do. So ATSU gives us some, like, secure network storage. I think it's called the H drive. Is that right? It's like my personal, no one else can get into that particular network drive, but it's sort of like a cloud because it's not on my computer. I can get to it from any computer through the portal. And when I print, I can actually print it to a PDF and then save it into my H drive, and I never actually hold a piece of paper, but I print it out off of the green employee site and into my network drive.
Right, and I've even had people at their tax appointments call me, and I'll tell them you can get into the green employee from any computer because it's a third-party secure.
Right.
It has your information, your private password, and they can pull it up at their accountant's office.
And just show it
And
to
just
them.
show it to them, and then they'll do what they need to with it.
So it sounds like the main thing is you really want people to go in and consent to print it themselves.
We do, because everything that costs ATSU trickles down to our students. It's going to eventually hit the tuition. So anything we can do to save the mailing costs, postage costs, when you think of 2,000 or plus W-2s to mail, it adds up pretty fast.
Right, paper and envelopes and stamps. And
So they can print it from any computer.
those poor people that have to lick all the stamps and put them on there.
That's going to be your job this year.
It's the worst.
So we are trying to be, and that is where the green part comes in, a green employee. It's not really green employees.
Oh, man.
It's being green for our employees to try to save a few of those trees.
I really thought the upstairs of Timken Burnett had some green employees running around.
They really don't.
They don't. Rats. Okay. Kirsty, what do you think? Do you have any questions about this whole deal?
I do actually, for Mary, because you keep mentioning tax appointments, and I'm from the generation where we do everything online. So it's all online filing taxes where you pretty much have to have a PDF. And so you can go through the way that Joe said to print print as a PDF to get sort of the online version that you can turn in online. But do you recommend that we have an in-person appointment? What's available for employees who don't want to maybe file online like my generation likes to do?
It's a personal choice, and it depends on how much you have. If you only have one W-2, it's probably pretty easy to do it online or with your own software where you just get it. But our green employee is also hooked up to where if you use TurboTax, it pre-fills it. So you can go in and you can pull up that PDF, and it fills in everything for you, and as it asks the questions. I've not used it, but I know a lot of them do, and they say it's super easy. So it depends on your situation. You may have more than one W-2. You may have income from several other sources, so you may need. My husband farms. We have a ton of different things. We go to a person now. I don't try to do it.
Right.
But before I had done my own taxes, so it's just a personal choice on that.
And I will actually say I have used the autofiller last year for the TurboTax, and it was fabulous.
I know we got a lot of really good feedback from that feature, and so we're leaving it on this year again. So hopefully it will help our employees.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. So there's a question that came in from one of our viewers, and they would like to know, Joe, how do you manage to rock that blonde? Wait, no, I'm just kidding. That's not the question. The question is, what if you want a pay stub older than 2 years?
If you want a pay stub older than 2 years, we can get you one. It's not going to look exactly the same, but we can run a report that goes back to January 1st of 2006
Yeah,
and get you something comparable.
I see. It'll satisfy whatever the
Right.
request
But
is.
now
probably.
W-2s that are more than the 2 years prior, so you get 3 years at a time up there. You get the current plus 2 years prior.
Oh, I see.
If you want one of those that are older, you have to go through the IRS. And I do have that information out there. I believe it's on the instructions for the green employee. I think it's at the bottom, how to get the older ones.
Oh, okay.
They don't charge you anything if you just need the informational form. But if you want an actual copy of it, then there is a charge, and it's like 6 to 8 weeks
Yeah,
to wait.
obviously.
So
It's the government.
that's why it's so good to put those in a PDF and keep those.
Very good. Okay. What else, Kirsty?
One question we get
Yeah.
in our office is, everybody will see a great big number, and it is a large, very large number, in box 12
Oh,
of
yeah,
the
I've heard of
W-2,
this.
and it's code DD. And if we can go to the W-2 for a minute again, if we could do that. Over here, I think you can see where I'm circling, under 12, there's 12A, and there's different codes, and you'll see this one has a DD. That large number is what our employers pay for their cost of insurance for us. So it's just informational for the IRS. They don't tax us on it. I'm not saying they won't ever do anything with it because they are the IRS. But this code DD is the employer cost of the health insurance, and it's important that we know that, because people don't understand how much our insurance really is. And so, we think, what we pay is it, and it's not. The employer, since we're self-insured, has a large cost, and that's what that box is for. And that's what it means. And it is a question we get a lot because it's alarmingly large. So here at ATSU, we do have a great benefit with our insurance.
Yeah, very good.
Okay.
We do, and actually that's a great reminder too. I think today's the last day of open enrollment, so last session we had Trina come in and talk about it, but because we have such an incredible employer contributions to our health insurance.
And
go
it
ahead
is. And if you haven't done open enrollment and you have any changes, I do believe you're right. I do believe today's the last day.
So that brings up an interesting point, because I know that sometimes when I look at a pay stub, I forget what all of the deductions that are being taken are even for. And same with maybe even same with the W-2. I don't know which one I look at and I'm like, wait a minute, why am I paying for, right? I think everybody does
And it
that.
is. And that's
How
where,
do I change or how do I find out what those are, or if I want to make changes to those?
okay. For your taxes, it's a W-4, and that says if you're married, you have 3 dependents, however you want to change that. So you may look at it and you may have just forgot, oh, my kids are grown, just like mine. They're grown, they're out of the house, I can't claim them anymore, so I better back those off. So you can get a W-4 online or on the portal, and the state forms are different. We have an MO4, Arizona has the A4, and our other states, you can get them anywhere online, or you can contact one of us in payroll and we'll get them. So that's always going to affect your W-2, and if you owe a lot of taxes at the end of the year, you might want to change that. Or if you get a ton of money back. A lot of people like it as a little savings, but would you be better off having a little more each week to use?
Yeah.
Or to save for retirement or something, So it's a personal choice, but if you're getting a large refund, or if you're owing a lot at the end of the year, that's something you need to look at.
You need to adjust
And
that
you can
somehow.
adjust those at any time.
Right.
Now, the other things that are going to affect your W-2 are going to be your health insurance. Like that is going to come out, that's a pre-tax deduction. So that's going to reduce your gross wages so your federal wages aren't as big for taxable purposes.
So you don't pay it. You don't pay
as
taxes on
much.
those things, right?
You don't.
Okay, cool.
I have a question. So if we do find that we owe too much or too little, is that something we can come to you and ask you the best way, sort of the amount that we should be
I can't.
deducting, or an accountant?
Yeah,
I
you're going to have to ask a tax accountant. I can show you the forms, and you can go to publication 15A and B, and they have even the tables that can help. But I can't give tax advice. It goes with my certification. I cannot give tax advice except to my children. They have to listen to me.
Right.
But you can always call and say, how am I filing? Because people just forget. And so if you're not paying enough, you can call me, and if you're filing with 4 exemptions, you might need to back that off a couple, and I can steer you to those tax tables to where you can look, and it will tell you the amount if you're paid monthly and you are married and you have 2 exemptions, about what tax is going to come out. Now, you have to also remember you have things that go in it. Excess life is taxable. It's a very small amount each paycheck, but your insurance deduction is fairly large. But we can help you, and there is a little calculator out there, paycheck calculator, that will help you.
Okay, very good. Gosh, I feel like we could sit here and fire questions all day, probably. But we're running close to time, right? And we got one more thing to squeeze into still, right, Kirsty? Is that right?
We do.
Okay. So before we do that, hey, Mary, thanks for spending some time with us today, answering all of Kirsty and I's inquisitive questions, things we've always wanted, burning questions about your withholdings and taxes and W-2s. And so we'll have Mary in next week to talk about tax shelters in the Virgin Islands and other places where you can hide all your money from ever being taxed ever.
But it's not advice.
No, it won't be advice. She's going to give us a description only. But Mary, thanks for coming and spending time with us. And Kirsty, what do we got to wrap us up today?
Well, I feel like I'm overly promoting it because it's my interview segment.
Oh, good.
But I had Aunt W Matthews in, and it's normally a coffee with Kirsty, but we decided to go a little bit more formal because you'll see Aunt does some really incredible things on this campus.
I'm Art W Matthews. I'm the mental health wellness counselor. I think there's maybe a few people that have a longer title. But we wanted to try and catch, sort of both ends, the full spectrum of what my job here is. And my job here is to provide support to students, personal support for what may be going on in their lives that may be affecting school or may not be necessarily affecting school, but affecting their behavior or their relationships or their moods. I think of counseling as being an intentional dialogue with somebody who's trained to listen. So as a licensed professional counselor, it's not my job really to advise people on exactly what to do. That frustrates some students because they really want some answers, some things to do. But it's a process. It's something that you kind of have to build a relationship with someone and help them, maybe sometimes shine a mirror up to them to show them kind of what they're saying and how they're behaving, so they can kind of see it in a non-threatening way, so they can make some changes on their own.
And if someone's thinking about maybe getting counselling, what's the best way to start that process?
Well, we have a nice screening device. I think it's atsu.caresforyou.org. To take an online screening to see, whether you might be feeling depressed or feeling anxious. I think some of the problems are that students think that it has to be a big problem in order to see somebody. And I use the example of, would you rather put out a campfire or put out a forest fire? So if we can get people to come in early with the smaller problems, then we can usually resolve them more quickly. stress.
Okay.
Stress, and test anxiety, and more stress. It is a stressful transition for a lot of students, especially in first year, to come here. They've never done this before. They've never been taught this way before. It's drinking from a fire hose. So helping them get acclimated and kind of stable on their feet when their ideas about who they've been as a student might be kind of crumbling. I think for a lot of our students, it's multifaceted. They feel like they should already know how to handle life, and they don't want other people seeing them going to a counselor. Many are afraid that if they go to counseling that someone's going to find out here and that's somehow going to go on their record. It's totally confidential. I keep my own records, which are not electronic, not a part of anything that the university has set up. The only times that I have to make a report to someone is if a person is suicidal, if a person is making statements they want to harm someone else, or if they've made a statement that they know about abuse of a child, abuse of an elderly person, or an incapacitated adult. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I contact someone here. It just means I have to get someone involved to make sure that person's safe or that other people are safe. So it's confidential. There's no record of anything. I know that some faculty may be telling people, hey, you don't want anything on your record, don't use your insurance. It's free to students and their spouses here, so we don't have anything on insurance at all.
I have to ask, what's your bear?
This little boy is, or I'm not sure,
Gender neutral?
gender neutral, is Algie. Algie is our representative from Mental Health First Aid, and I am a mental health first aid instructor. I have given classes on mental health first aid now for about 14 months on campus. We've gotten almost 100 people certified in mental health first aid. It's the first aid that you give to somebody who might be developing a mental health crisis or in a mental health crisis. So it's sort of like CPR for the soul. And we're just trying to get as many people certified in it so they can be, like CPR, available in their daily lives to somebody who might be needing some help.
How about best gift you've ever given?
Donation to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention Out of the Darkness Walk, which will be going on December 9th, and you can support Team ATSU.
And how do they do that if they want to get involved?
They can look on the Googly, Out of the Darkness Walk, Phoenix, and you should find the page for that, and then you can find our team, and you can either join the team or you can donate money. And I have made a public statement that if I get $150 in my donations, which I've easily done in the past, and the team gets their goal met, which is $1,000, I will let someone shave my head.
You heard it. All right, so we might be shaving Art's head, and that sounds like a great cause to go and check out.
If you'd like to wield the razor, you know, on December, I guess, 11th.
How much
Yes.
do you have to donate to wield the razor?
Oh gosh. I guess the person who donates the most to the team. But you will have to make your donation public so we know. You have the option of being private or public, so please make it public so we'll know. Whoever donates the most.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming in and taking the time to do this.
Bye. He's from Australia too.
So Kirsty's not Australian. That's probably the only inaccurate portion of that video, but otherwise that was fantastic. Thanks for taking the time to put that together. And that is a wrap for our show. For myself, Mary Carter, thank you so much for being here. Kirsty Gaither, my lovely, competent overachieving co-host in Mesa, and all of our guys here in backstage. Check this out. You can't believe the group of folks that actually, they do all of the real work. Yeah, you guys are fantastic. Thank you for joining us today and spending some time hearing about W-2s and taxes and things that dominate Mary's world. Mary Carter. I just hear people say Mary Carter. Until next time, we will look forward to seeing you again. And thanks for joining us for this edition of the Lunch and Learn.